He's Seth Davis, CBS Sports, Sports Illustrated. He's the most durable writer we have on staff at Sports Illustrated. What's happening, Seth?
I definitely have durability issues this time of year, my man.
Hey, let me ask you this first. Do Grant Hill and Aaron Rodgers have a beef?
No.
You know why I'm asking, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it was a legitimate question. He didn't go to Wisconsin. Grant's point was that if the Gators won, he wouldn't be in the locker room, because he lives in Orlando.
Well, can we start a Grant Hill, Aaron Rodgers beef? Can we get that going?
I don't think Grant Hill has many feuds.
No, he doesn't seem like the feuding guy.
He's not a feuding guy.
He's kind of a peacemaker.
He is. He's a pacifist.
What was
He's
the
a good
best
man.
What was the best game for you last night?
I thought Arizona-San Diego State was a great game. And you know what? I think here's the thing. Nick Johnson ends up going, 3 for 12 or something like that from the field. I thought he played a great game because, shooting and making shots is an important part of the game, but it's not the only part of the game. And how many times, Chris, do you see a player let his offense and whether or not he is making shots determine whether he has a good night? And he contributed in a lot of different ways. Still got to the foul line 10 times. He was 10 for 10 and, played great defense, got some rebounds, got some steals. And then when it came time for winning time, he made buckets, which meant that he was there mentally. It means that his teammates kept him up. He kept himself up. He fought through it, and he had enough confidence to make the shot of the game, which was a big three-pointer down the stretch. So, San Diego State is one of many teams we see in college that just has a hard time scoring. And at a certain point, you got to put the biscuit in the basket. And their inability, to score when they are playing well, bit them in the end. So good on Arizona for grinding through a tough win when they didn't have their A game, but they still beat a really good team, and they're still in this thing.
Wisconsin put an absolute whipping on Baylor. I didn't see that coming, Seth. The way Baylor played against Creighton and the way their bigs were playing up front, I just didn't see this type of beating coming down. I mean, how surprised were you with the way Wisconsin handled Baylor?
I really wasn't surprised, Chris, because, a lot of this comes down to matchups. And the reason why you play zone, the reason why more people in college are playing zone is because there just aren't that many skilled players. Well, guess what? Wisconsin's got a lot of skilled players. They can all make shots. The way that ball moves around, I know it's kind of cliched to say they put on an offensive clinic, but they really put on an offensive clinic. And you have a weapon like Frank Kaminsky, who's a 7-footer, who's a terrific three-point shooter, but over the course of the season has really learned to be an inside guy first and to use his size to set up his outside jump shot as opposed to the opposite, which is what was happening early. So he was turning down good shots to get better ones last night. And by the way, they're a pretty good defensive team too. Not a great defensive team, but pretty good. I think Arizona's going to have their hands full. I picked Wisconsin to go to the Final Four, and nothing I've seen in this tournament dissuades me from that pick.
Who's the best player left in the tournament?
The best player left in the tournament? Gosh, that's a great question. Some good ones, man. I might go with Shabazz Napier just as a single guy at UConn. I don't know if they've got enough to get by Iowa State tonight because Iowa State's got probably better overall team talent. They're certainly better off. They're better on the interior. The guy who might be playing the best is actually Jarnell Stokes from Tennessee, who's a 6'8" junior forward. He's one of these guys who, kind of came into college with a big reputation and tried to play too much away from the basket, facing up the basket, has learned to become an inside player. That's going to be a heck of a game tonight between them and Michigan. I like Michigan to win, but, Tennessee has some magic. And, maybe if you're talking about future pro potential, I still might go with Julius Randle at Kentucky. I just think he's a stud. I love his motor. He's a lefty. He's unconventional. He's a lot more skilled away from the basket than he has shown this season, and I think at the next level he'll be able to show that.
Has Aaron Gordon shown you anything during this tournament run that you didn't see during the season?
No, he is who we thought he was. Can't make free throws. Was 0 for 3 last night, 42% from the line.
That's unbelievable. That number is ridiculous.
It's he knocks down enough shots to make you think that he should be better than 42%. He's maybe not going to be 82%, but that's when it becomes a mental game with him. But he's a really dynamic athlete, and I can tell you, Chris, from having been around him, he's a super kid. He's in that kind of Grant Hill, Shane Battier mode, really cerebral, intellectual, incredibly articulate, well-spoken, thoughtful, wants to be a coach. He takes the time to, watch film with the coaches and ask a lot of questions because he wants to be a coach down the road. So maybe he's one of those guys who thinks too much, like an Aaron Kraft, But boy, he's a dynamic athlete, and clearly they don't win last night without him.
He's Seth Davis, CBS Sports Illustrated, joining us here on the Dan Patrick Show. Should we be surprised at how well Dayton has played during this tournament? I mean, they were a pretty good A-10 team. They've got a veteran roster, but, I mean, should we be surprised at this type of success?
Well, I'm surprised. I'll raise my hand. I mean, I didn't think they'd get by Ohio State.
Did you actually just raise your hand there?
I actually did. We're not on a video phone here?
No, we're on the radio.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
That goes to my durability issues.
Straight shoulder.
I'm definitely surprised. I mean, look. To the extent that this is the NCAA tournament, and you're never allowed to be truly surprised, but they had a good regular season, not a great one. They had some issues when they lost their center, Matt Cavanaugh. He had a concussion, and getting him back, and they're another team that doesn't really score it well. But remember now they beat Ohio State and Syracuse by a combined 3 points. Syracuse shot 0 for 10 from three-point range. They weren't bad. They were horrendous, and Dayton beat them by 2. So last night was the first time that they really looked to me like a solid team. And I mean, they had this freshman Kendall Pollard. I think it was his previous 17 games. He had a total of 24 points. Probably 12 of those 17 games he had 0 points. And last night he had 12 coming off the bench. How do you predict something like that? But their overall team speed and toughness. I said something on TV last night. Anytime I mention about West Coast teams being soft, Doug Gottlieb gets all into tizzy because he's from Orange County. But Stanford had everything that they needed to win that game. The only thing they didn't have that Dayton had more of was toughness. Now depth was also an issue because Stanford's lost some guys to injuries and they don't have much of a bench. And once those big guys got into foul trouble, so a lot of it is quickness over size. But it was quickness, it was depth, it was balance, but it was toughness. I mean, Dayton came after them, and Chasen Randall, the guard for Stanford, he's second in the Pac-12 in scoring, and he's fourth in field goal percentage. Shoots something like 48% from the floor, and it was the worst 21-point performance you'll ever see. He needed 22 shots to score 21 points, and that's because of the overall team speed and toughness of Dayton. It's just a terrific story that a kid like Archie Miller, now that I'm almost 44, Chris, I don't know if you're probably not at the stage on the NBA beat where these coaches are younger than you. It's a little disconcerting. Well, he's a lot younger than me. He's 35, and he's a plucky little sucker, and he's a really nice kid, and he's doing a heck of a job. And the team really reflects his character and his personality because it is a team. It's a classic case of the whole being greater than the sum of their parts, and it's the story right now in the NCAA tournament. Dayton is in the Elite Eight. Nobody had it.
Yeah, and Archie Miller, he just signed that extension with Dayton. But what are the chances that a coaching job opportunity comes along this offseason that he jumps at?
Well, I'm not big on the whole extension means they're staying thing.
No, Steve Alford did it last year.
I was going to say, or haven't you met New Mexico coach Steve Alford? So, but right now I don't see a job. Maybe Wake Forest could be intriguing to him because he went to North Carolina State, but Dayton's a really good job. There's a reason why the first four is in Dayton. It is a great basketball town. And that league, the Atlantic 10, I think it's a terrific league to coach in because, it's a good league, but it's not like a murderous league, where like with South Florida, maybe you're fighting to get to be sixth in the league. But Dayton, you can win the A-10. The A-10 got, 6 teams in this year. So they're going to get a bunch of teams into the tournament. At the end of the day, that's why Mark Fuse never left Gonzaga, because his feeling is, my job is to get to the NCAA tournament, and from Gonzaga, I can get to the NCAA tournament. I don't know that it's so easy to get to the NCAA tournament from Wake Forest. So Dayton's a good job. They pay good money, terrific arena, unbelievable fans and fan support. You saw the picture of all those people on the streets of Dayton. They love basketball at Dayton. If the school does its job, not only in terms of paying him its money, but keeping their facilities modern, giving them, a big thing is having enough money to pay your assistants and to be able to keep your assistants so they can keep feeding your players. I see no reason why a guy like Archie Miller can't stay at Dayton a long time.
You picking them to beat Florida?
No.
Come
No.
on.
The Gators, man. The Gators are grown men. It's like, I know you're an NBA guy, UCLA, well, they have more future pros. Well, guess what? That game wasn't being played in the future. It was played last night. Scotty Wilbekin's another great example. He didn't have his jump shot, still impacted the game in a lot of different ways, made the big buckets at the end. Florida's toughness and overall team maturity and winning attitude is unparalleled in this tournament. I mean, I think they. I'm obviously surprised that Dayton's playing in the game. I'll be even more surprised if they win the game. Once Florida gets to North Texas, all bets are off. Anything can happen. But I've seen nothing from Florida to think that I made a bad choice in picking them to win the national championship, as did most people.
Tennessee, Michigan tonight. Who you got?
I got the Wolverines. Too many good shooters, and their big guy, Jordan Morgan, inside is very underrated. He had 15 and 10 over Texas. He's the reason they didn't fall off the planet when they lost McGarry.
UConn, Ohio State?
I got the Cyclones. It's going to be a de facto road game in MSG, but they have more better players, if that makes sense. And I'll finish it out for you. I still like the Spartans over Virginia. That's going to be the ice pack game. And then I do like Louisville to beat Kentucky, although I think the good thing about Kentucky is I think they really like being the underdog.
All right, you're going to have to clarify for me what the ice pack game means.
The ice pack is a very physical game. A lot of bruises.
Is that TV talk?
It's writerly talk.
Okay.
We can be writerly on the radio.
That's true.
I don't know if I'm writing or on TV on the radio. I don't know where I am right now, but I'm with you, and that's important. I'd say I love you, but Dan would get jealous. I hope you're not anticipating the I love you.
Well, I was kind of wondering if that was going to happen. I
like you a lot, but Dan is he's very possessive of me.
I appreciate that. But let me ask you this before I let you go. Iowa State, Freddie Hoiberg, what are the chances that let me ask it this way. More likely he gets a bigger college job or jumps to the NBA?
NBA.
Yeah.
NBA. Chris, I'm telling you, I'm sure those guys are on him.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, he's obviously in a great situation at Iowa State. We know about the relationship between him and that community and that school and all the history there. But if I'm an NBA GM, I gather the vibes around Brad Stevens are pretty good. I don't know if I never believe in that kind of template thinking. Well, if a college guy does well, another college guy's going to do well. But Fred Hoiberg I mean, the reason why he's so good is that he brings a lot of NBA thinking to college. To me, he strikes me as more of an NBA coach. And the thing I love about him most, and similar to Brad Stevens, he's got a great demeanor. He's not like an Izzo who's going to die every time the team loses. He's got a really even-keeled demeanor. He's got a great way of relating to people. Like a guy like DeAndre Kane. I mean, he was kicked out. How bad do you have to screw up for Marshall to tell you to leave when you're this good? I mean, look how good this kid is. So he's a pro. Fred Hoiberg, if any, you don't need me to make a commercial for him, but if I'm a GM and I'm looking at a coach, I don't know that my list goes any further than Fred Hoiberg. I think that highly of him.
Good to talk to you, Seth. Thank you.
All right, Chris, enjoy the games. I like you a lot.
You too, Seth. That's Seth Davis, CBS Sports Illustrated.